From the moment of its release, Dirty Harry ignited a fierce storm of controversy, with many labelling it as fascist on screen. The film infuriated police officers who walked off the set, was seen by lawyers and scholars as an example of human rights violations, and left audiences both terrified and captivated. Yet despite the wave of criticism, the film became a massive hit, transforming Clint Eastwood into Hollywood's tough guy icon. Not only compelling for its gritty on-screen presence, the film also hides chilling secrets. The infamous real-life Zodiac Killer actually appeared to do something that haunted everyone, while Clint Eastwood nearly lost his life on a rooftop, plummeting straight onto concrete in one of Hollywood's most horrific accidents. But that's still not all, because there are many more shocking secrets behind Dirty Harry. Don't look away, this video will reveal everything. 1. The Zodiac Killer appeared on the film's premiere night. Dirty Harry was born from San Francisco's terrifying obsession, the Zodiac Killer case, a murderer who spread fear with coded letters and cold-blooded killings. Can you imagine that the real-life killer himself silently appeared on the night of the film's premiere? A movie inspired by his crime, San Francisco, the night of December 22, 1971. The North Point Theatre was ablaze with lights, hundreds of excited spectators crowding in to watch the film, stirring public uproar. In the darkness, security cameras captured a chillingly familiar figure, tall and lanky, wearing sunglasses despite the dim theatre, sitting silently in the back row. He didn't speak, didn't react, and as soon as the end appeared on screen, he vanished into the night, as if he'd never existed. 3 days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received a new coded letter describing scenes from the film that weren't in any trailer or promotion. This detail convinced people that the Zodiac had watched his cinematic counterpart in person, blending into the oblivious, chattering crowd like part of his twisted game. From then on, a haunting question lingered. Why was he there? Some believed he relished the warped glory of being portrayed as Scorpio. Others thought he was taunting the police or perhaps seeking a sense of power by hiding among the crowd. Countless theories emerged, but to this day, no one has confirmed the truth. A bone-chilling presence in the dark. But outside the theatre, Clint Eastwood himself faced an unbelievable life-or-death moment. 2. Clint Eastwood fell freely from a rooftop with real blood flowing on screen. The breathless chase scene across San Francisco's dilapidated rooftops was meant to be just another tense action sequence. But behind the camera, it turned into a moment that nearly cost Clint Eastwood his life. While performing a jump between 2 crumbling buildings himself, the floor suddenly collapsed beneath him. Eastwood's entire body plummeted 12 feet onto the cold concrete below, hitting so hard he lost consciousness, dislocated his shoulder, and had blood pouring from a gash on his forehead. The entire set froze, believing the career, or even the life of Hollywood's top star had ended there. Yet when he regained consciousness, Eastwood brushed off all concerns, saying, "Only Harry wouldn't give up, and neither will I." He insisted on continuing to film, letting the real blood and pain blend into the character, turning the scene into one of the most authentic and chilling moments in cinematic history. But few know that from the start, Clint Eastwood wasn't even chosen for the role. 3. Clint Eastwood and the turning point that created the Dirty Harry legend. Few know that Clint Eastwood was not the first choice. He was the last choice, but it was he who made the legend. When the Dirty Harry project began circulating in the film industry, rumours about the script quickly generated buzz. Initially, Paul Newman was approached for the role of Inspector Harry, but he declined and recommended someone else, Clint Eastwood, then 41, famous for his man with no name in spaghetti westerns. At the time, Eastwood was busy completing his directorial debut play Misty for Me. During production, he was sent several versions of the Dirty Harry script, in which the killer was originally named Travis instead of Scorpio, a character who targeted wealthy individuals who had escaped justice. Eastwood wanted to revise the script and personally invited director Don Siegel, with whom he had collaborated on 3 previous films. Siegel was also dissatisfied with the original ending where the killer was taken down by a Marine, a detail that diminished Harry's tense journey. With Eastwood and Siegel's collaboration, the film took the shape we know today. Notably, Eastwood's company, Malpaso Productions, was directly involved in production. But just when everything seemed to be on track, an unexpected crisis shook the entire crew. 4. Dozens of San Francisco police officers walked off the set en masse. From the first days of filming, the Dirty Harry crew received maximum support from the San Francisco Police Department. Real inspectors served as technical advisors, and many officers donned uniforms to appear as extras. But that cooperation quickly turned into a wave of outrage. When the script leaked and the first footage was screened internally, many officers realized that Harry Callahan's portrayal was akin to a lawless vigilante torturing suspects, disregarding rules, and placing justice above the Constitution. Over 24 police officers immediately abandoned the production, refusing all cooperation. The SFPD issued a public statement condemning the film as a dangerous misrepresentation of police work. The event sent shockwaves through the city. On one side was the heroic screen icon, on the other, fierce opposition from those who wore the badge. Ultimately, the crew had to hire private security to maintain order and use stunt performers to replace real officers in crowd scenes. A rebellion erupted right in the middle of the production, and it only made the public more curious than ever. But that controversy paled in comparison to the real-world consequences the film unwittingly sparked. 5. The .44 Magnum from the screen became a real-life criminal nightmare.
But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and will blow your head clean off, you could ask yourself the question, do I feel lucky?
This is the most powerful handgun in the world. Harry Callahan's line turned the .44 Magnum into an icon overnight. But the power of cinema unleashed an unforeseen consequence. Before Dirty Harry, this massive gun was mainly used by hunters or collectors virtually unknown in everyday life. After the film's release, demand skyrocketed, with gun stores across America selling out and waiting lists stretching months, even years. But the real tragedy began when the FBI reported numerous criminals using .44 Magnums to commit crimes, admitting they were inspired by Dirty Harry. A cinematic weapon had stepped into reality, no longer a harmless prop on set, but a tool spreading terror in American society. A gun crisis erupted, and it only heightened Warner Brothers' anxiety about the film they were holding. 6. Warner Brothers held a gun to director Don Siegel's head mid-production. While the public was still processing the film, Hollywood's bigwigs were already furious. Warner Brothers executives watched the dailies and were horrified by a film too dark, too violent, and riddled with controversy. The studio's chairman flew straight to San Francisco, planning to fire director Don Siegel immediately and replace him with someone safer. But Clint Eastwood wouldn't have it. He boldly declared, "If he goes, I go." That threat made Warner Brothers back down. Siegel kept his seat, but from then on he was closely monitored by a studio representative stationed on set watching every decision. Later, Siegel bitterly admitted that making Dirty Harry was like filming with a gun to my head. A fiery power struggle behind the scenes and the casting tragedy ahead shocked everyone even more. 7. The Scorpio role was initially intended for a fallen American war hero. Are you impressed by the psychotic killer Scorpio, who instilled fear in every frame? What if that role hadn't gone to Andy Robinson, but to one of America's greatest heroes? Initially, Warner Brothers targeted Audie Murphy, the legendary World War II soldier, awarded numerous medals and later a Hollywood star. The idea of a national hero playing a deranged killer would have made the film exponentially more shocking. But fate intervened. Before the contract could be signed, Murphy died in a tragic plane crash, closing the door on a casting choice that could have altered cinematic history. That death paved the way for an unknown Andy Robinson, who turned Scorpio into one of the most chilling villains on screen. A fateful switch, and then Robinson himself turned his experience into a nightmare that extended beyond the set. 8. Andy Robinson acted so convincingly he received death threats in real life. Andy Robinson stepped onto the Dirty Harry set as a little-known theatre actor who even despised guns. He trembled every time he held a weapon, to the point that the crew had to send him for special training to overcome his fear. Yet when the cameras rolled, Robinson fully embodied the deranged Scorpio, wild eyes, distorted voice, every gesture chilling viewers to the bone. His performance was so convincing that the line between character and actor blurred. Audiences leaving theatres were both captivated and enraged, with many hating him so much they sent death threats, treating Robinson as if he were the real killer. The intense pressure forced him to change his phone number and live in anxiety for years afterward. A performance so successful it nearly cost the actor in real life. While Robinson was haunted by his role, the crew faced another nightmare, death-defying stunts. 9. Dirty Harry's daring jump was stitched together from 3 near-fatal stunts. On screen, you see a single jump, Harry Callahan leaping from a bridge onto a bus full of kidnapped schoolchildren. But to capture those few seconds, 3 stuntmen risked their lives in 3 separate jumps from the bridge to a truck, from the truck to the bus, and finally from the bus's side to its roof. No CGI, no safety nets, just split-second timing with death lurking beneath the wheels. One broke a rib, another suffered a concussion, all to deliver a breathtaking moment that left theatre audiences stunned. It was no longer just cinema, it was real lives gambled for a few frames. But it wasn't just the action scenes that left an indelible mark. Sometimes a single line was enough to rewrite action movie history. 10. The most iconic action movie line was born from a moment of improvisation.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Do you feel lucky, punk? The line that became immortal, but did you know it wasn't in the script? The original script was long-winded and cumbersome, frustrating Clint Eastwood. He asked director Don Siegel for a chance to try something different. In a moment of improvisation, Eastwood delivered the short, icy line like a knife's edge. The entire set fell silent. When Siegel called, cut, the crew erupted in applause, and even the actor being held at gunpoint laughed in amazement. No one expected that spontaneous outburst to become the gold standard for action movie one-liners for decades to come. A spur-of-the-moment spark that changed history, and that same spirit drove Eastwood to take on dangerous challenges without a stunt double. 11. Clint Eastwood climbed a high-rise and jumped onto a bus without a stunt double. While many Hollywood stars opt for stunt doubles in dangerous scenes, Clint Eastwood chose to face them head-on. In the scene where he saves a suicidal man, he climbed a massive crane dangling in mid-air with only a flimsy safety rope, facing heights that would make anyone sweat. And in the climactic bus scene, it was Eastwood himself who leaped, clung to the edge, and climbed onto the roof, all real. No trick shots, no gimmicks, just sheer daring. Audiences watching believed Harry Callahan wasn't just a movie character, Eastwood himself was a real tough guy. And sometimes that gritty quality came from much smaller details. 12. Harry's iconic outfit was just Eastwood's personal clothes.
Police officer, what's the problem? Oh, thank God. He's inside.
Harry Callahan stepped onto the screen with a simple look. White shirt, dark pants, worn leather jacket, and a shoulder holster. Everyone assumed it was a meticulously designed costume by a styling team. But the truth is almost unbelievably simple. It was all Clint Eastwood's personal clothing brought from home. The leather jacket had been with him for years, the shirt and pants were from his own wardrobe, and even the holster was chosen after consulting real police officers. Unexpectedly, that improvisation created one of the most iconic looks in cinematic history, copied countless times. And that authenticity wasn't just in the wardrobe, it was pushed to the extreme in the action scenes. 13. The bank robbery scene was crafted with advice from a real-life criminal. When filming the bank robbery scene, the Dirty Harry crew wanted to create tension authentic to every detail. To achieve this, they brought in a former convict who had served 10 years for bank robbery as a consultant. He taught the actors how to hold guns, move in high-stress situations, and crucially, the mindset of a criminal during a heist. Real robbers are shakier and more desperate than people think, he said. Thanks to this, the robbery scene wasn't just a flashy action sequence, it became a breathless, deeply authentic and haunting segment. This brush with real crime made Dirty Harry stand out completely from other police films of its time. But that authenticity was a double-edged sword as it led the film to be viewed as a forbidden fruit in several European countries. Dirty Harry became a forbidden fruit banned in several European countries. Right after its release, Dirty Harry immediately enraged censors. Labelled dangerous in West Germany, it was banned for 3 years. Australia only allowed screenings after cutting multiple violent scenes. Finland was even harsher. The film was banned twice, forcing distributors to take the case to the Supreme Court. Ultimately, Dirty Harry was allowed back in theatres, but only after sacrificing 3 minutes of footage. Yet the bans backfired. In West Germany alone, pirated copies sold for 4 to 5 times the price of a theatre ticket. In Finland, underground screenings were packed with audiences paying triple to see the forbidden fruit. The more it was suppressed, the more Dirty Harry became an underground phenomenon, sparking an unprecedented craze for action cinema. A work buried by censorship, but resurrected stronger in the underground. And that same haunting quality was vividly captured in the novel of the same era. 15. The Dirty Harry novel revealed Scorpio's chilling untold past. When the work was novelised by Philip Rock, audiences got a fuller glimpse of Scorpio's depravity. In the book, he has a real name, Charles Davis, a killer who murdered his grandparents as a teenager and was later confined to a mental hospital. Not stopping there, he used astrology to select his next victims, believing fate and the stars guided his crimes. These horrific details never made it to the screen, but they made readers even more haunted. Scorpio in the novel expanded the fear, turning him from a cinematic character into a nightmare in the mind. And in real life, the crew's nightmare went by the name Budget. 16. Budget slashed by 30%, forcing the crew to improvise an iconic foot chase. Hollywood is used to throwing money at explosive action scenes, but Dirty Harry went the opposite way. Mid-production, Warner Brothers abruptly cut 30% of the budget, fearing costs were spiraling out of control. A car chase through San Francisco's hills was completely scrapped. Instead, the crew had Clint Eastwood run on foot. The result? Instead of a grandiose chase, audiences witnessed a gripping personal pursuit through San Francisco's iconic slopes. This forced frugality created one of the film's most memorable segments, proving that tension and drama sometimes don't need exploding cars or lavish scenes. And that same daring spirit led Eastwood to entrust the iconic villain role to a complete unknown. 17. Clint Eastwood gave the main villain role to an unknown actor terrified of guns. Imagine if you were Hollywood's top star. Would you dare give the main villain role to a little-known theatre actor who'd never appeared in a blockbuster? Clint Eastwood did just that. After seeing Andy Robinson in a small play, he decided to bring this unfamiliar face to the screen. After watching him perform on a small stage, Eastwood saw in Robinson a raw intensity that polished Hollywood stars lacked. And as predicted, Robinson's nervousness and trembling with guns blended perfectly into Scorpio, making him a deranged, terrifying, yet authentic killer. That risky decision turned Robinson into a villainous icon for decades. But even with the perfect villain cast, one European country still saw the film as a threat to be eradicated. 18. Finland banned Dirty Harry twice, only relenting after a Supreme Court ruling. In Finland, Dirty Harry wasn't just censored, it was hunted to the end. After being banned the first time for excessive violence, distributors cut the film to get it into theatres. But soon after, the government banned it again, branding it a cultural enemy. A tense legal battle ensued, dragging on to the Supreme Court. Finally, Dirty Harry was allowed back on screens, but only after cutting 3 minutes of content. Those controversies didn't stay on the screen, they spilled into university lecture halls where one scene became a textbook case. 19. An interrogation scene became a teaching example in law schools across America.
You're lucky I'm not indicting you for assault with intent to commit murder.
The scene where Harry Callahan coerces a confession from the killer without reading Miranda rights quickly became a lightning rod for debate. To many human rights activists, it was evidence of the film glorifying law-breaking. But to scholars, it was a golden scenario for teaching the tension between investigative efficiency and civil rights. Many American law schools officially included Dirty Harry in their curricula, turning it into an unexpected constitutional teaching tool. A commercial film became a vivid legal text, forcing generations of law students to grapple with the thorny question: when does justice justify breaking the law? And while academic debates raged at the box office, Dirty Harry unleashed a thunderous explosion that stunned Hollywood. 20. A $4 million film flipped Hollywood with $36 million in revenue and a wave of outrage. No one dared bet big on Dirty Harry with its modest $4 million budget. But after its December 1971 release, the film exploded, grossing $36 million, 9 times its cost, becoming the 4th highest-grossing film of the year. Clint Eastwood shot straight into the ranks of superstars, and Warner Bros. Held a money-making machine. But that success came with fury. The press scholars and human rights organizations unanimously criticized Dirty Harry for promoting violence, glorifying vigilante cops, and sowing the image of a fascist hero. A film both celebrated and cursed it became a polarizing icon in Hollywood history. Dirty Harry wasn't just an action movie, it was a milestone that defined a generation of cinema. It created the timeless tough guy icon with Clint Eastwood leaving behind lines and imagery that endure. The tension, grit, and dark atmosphere pulled audiences into every frame. Over half a century later, the film retains its power to provoke and captivate. If you found this series of truths fascinating, please like and share to spread the story behind this legendary film. And don't forget to subscribe to catch more shocking cinematic secrets.